Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. I'm a buddy Rhett back here coding. Got a couple dogs on the floor right behind me, chewing on some bones and just enjoying the morning. It is 8:10 a.m. I think it's probably like 71 degrees, feels like 81 degrees. Let's see what we got. Let me click on this and see where we're at. Let's see. Oh, so it's 69 degrees, which was exactly what it was yesterday. And feels like 77. So that was off by a good bit. Looks like it's going to rain at 10 to 12. And I think we're almost to a full moon. I think tomorrow, yeah, 99% of the moon is being displayed. Tomorrow is the full moon. It is June 6th. And yeah, I've noticed that, like, yeah, my like sort of energy level for work and for the day is really starting to get very high, where I can accomplish a lot in the daytime, where I get a lot of the work. But along with that is, I guess I get a little bit more annoyed than normal. So that's not ideal. But I guess, and I do think that the moon really does. Yeah, I'm starting to think that the moon really does have some sort of impact on my day to day, which is like I never realized that before, but I've always heard that like every profession they say, wow, things get really crazy when it's a full moon. So it it definitely affects other people, and like I said, I don't know if the effect on me is a side effect of other people or if it's actually directly affected me. But anyways, I got a nut for Rhett. She would like it. There you go, girl. And here we go. So we have a bug. The bug I think was expected. We may have been able to mitigate this bug before it happened, but it probably would have been much more difficult and very likely to cause us to over engineer things. When you're trying to code for bugs that don't exist yet, that can be really tough. But basically, the bug is when you click this and you hit add viz, and then you close off, and then you change view types, and then you come back, it redraws in the wrong place. And I have no idea why that's happening. So this is the kind of the point. Well, first of all, like it's super important. A lot of times you'll get like a bug like this from like something like this may start happening. It may get out to the production or into QA or something, and the bug will read something like the as a user, I expect the visualization to appear in the correct place. And then and then they may have some steps to reproduce, and it may be like change this back and forth, change the view from custom to tabular, and then back to custom again. And that just isn't enough information. But typically, what you'd want is like the from like start at refreshing, and then from here add a visualization, and then close the visualization pop up, and then go to tabular, and then go to custom, and see that it's to the right. So that so there's that. So then this is the point of time when like you're gonna where it's a good idea to sort of make a story, like a what do they call that? But basically, like your idea of why this is likely to happen, and so that you can explain it to people, so that people can kind of understand what you're up against. And so my suspicion is that when we change, we destroy the outer component, and then when we go back, the inner component starts, and then that kicks off the whole drawing. And once it draws, then it determines whether what position something determines what position it's supposed to be in, and and for some reason it's determining, either my guess is either it's doing like a like a basic count, and it thinks that there's some in front of it, or more likely, now that I'm talking about this out loud, um, it's finding whatever the last one was and appending the value. I think I have vague memories of it being coded that way. So like it's like looking through and saying, hey, what was my last one? Oh, okay, it was 200. Okay, this one needs to be 400 or something, right? And that's not working now. But before it was fine because there was no way to destroy and rerun the whole outer component. And I'm pretty sure that there is an outer component and an inner component. So now that we have our story, our general starting point of what we think we need to do, it probably makes sense to try to figure out, okay, what is in fact the outer component. And it looks like it is app viz is this visualization. And then there's something called app custom layout that is holds the app viz. So since we know that, the next step would be I would typically go to my package, close all. We really don't need the package, and then do a search through the code. Control V. And basically what we're looking for is selector dot at custom layout. Now, I've probably worked in, I don't know, a dozen Angular shops, and this works for all but one. One, it did not work. There was one where we did not have a selector. I guess the selector is not required, and they brought everything in like this based on the route, and there was no selector at all. So in that place, then basically what you'd have to do is try to find the class and search on where the class is created. But we don't have to worry about that because we have our selector, and that's what we're looking for. A lot of times you'll have like dozens of these things. Like if they're using the selectors, you may have hundreds of instances of selectors, but you'll only have one that says selector : in the app selector. All right, so basically what happens is there's sort of two things that happen here. One is it's created and it creates a constructor, then it subscribes to everything inside of this effect, and then it runs this animation visualizations. So that's one thing, and it has a set timeout. The other thing that may happen is, or then that's sort of one chain of events that happens here. Then apparently we are subscribed to this, and if something changes in this ST renders signal, if something changes in there, then this runs due to the change. So it looks like we coded if I remember correctly, we coded the hey, something added, so we need to add a new visualization. And you see like this sort of further validates that it's kind of going based on whatever it had before. That's how it's determining where to put the visualization. So we handled this part of an effect, but what we didn't handle was this thing coming up, and whatever this animate visualization does to these renderers, whatever it does to those things, it not accounting for the fact that it's fresh. Now, the one thing is that we do want, when it comes back, for it to put wherever it was, if it was if it's already pre-existing, we don't want it to move it, because that's the whole point, is we want to be able to place these wherever we want to place them. But So anyway, so it looks like what we want to do is just validate what the idea. And the idea is we're console log setting up visualizations. And now what we expect to do is to come in here and, like, if we look in our console log, we get our setting up vizzes. And then we know that if we change, we come back. Yeah, so we have setting up vizzes again. And so then if we add one, we get setting up vizzes. So basically what's happened is there used to only be one way to call setting up vizzes, and that's by adding a visualization. But now there's two ways to call setup vizzes, and that's by creating the outer component, the custom layout component. So that tells me that it's likely, the problem is probably inside of there. And at this point, I find it usually useful to just debug from here and sort of see if I can get an idea of what's going on. So we close. And now we're in our setting up visualization service. Now, this already exists. It just hasn't been placed. And it's in the right spot. Let's see if we can look at our element. We can click this, and I think, yeah, click on there. And see, I thought that it would be here, but maybe it's here with length. Okay, so this is the canvas styles. This is our width and length, and we do not have anything set yet in here. And I guess that does make sense. So I was thinking it would already be set because we set it previously, but it wouldn't because it just got created. So, all right, so let's go back into our sources and step into the function call. And let's just go ahead and make this bigger. So basically, setup DOM visualizations gets called, and we have a count of 0, and then we're going to create our viz array from visualization items. So let's look at our visualization items. So we only have one item in our visualization items. So let's go, I think it's a little easier to deal with it when it's an array. So this is our visualization items, but in an array instead of, all right, so we have our viz component, and we have this flag. I remember this has been initialized as false. And it has its reference to the visualization service. And we're just gathering data at this point. We're not really doing much. So now we have our setup visualization viz array, this function. So we'll, and that I guess will take us here. Count. And then, oh, did I skip? I think I skipped over what I wanted to. So I skipped over what I wanted to stop on, I think. Let me hit play and see. Yeah, okay, so at this point it had decided, something in here decided to move it over 200. So let's go ahead and go through the process again. And let's go ahead and hit run to get us to here. So visualization item will go into there. We know we don't want that anymore, so let's go ahead and go here. Oh man, did I mess up? I messed up. That's, I think, where we want to be. So I think it's going to move it all the way over here this time. Okay, let's do it again. I don't think we want this one anymore. All right, so now let's go into this guy. So we aren't doing anything with widths or anything in here. So, and it's only going to do something if it's not initialized. And if we remember, the viz component is not initialized. So we're going to go in. So I want to put my debugger here now and remove that. All right, so now this says create a visualization, which seems like weird to me because I think we already have a visualization. So this, just thinking out loud, is making me think that we're creating something when whatever it is we're creating already exists. So let's see. Step into the function call. So at this point, I'm going to create a whole visualization object. But I think a visualization object already exists for this one. Yeah, see. We only have one visualization, but we're going to create a fourth visualization here. And so this whole concept that a visualization may already exist may already exist kind of messes us up because it couldn't have existed before without the outer component existing. It couldn't exist before. That wasn't possible because the outer component had to be there. And I mean, because the outer component was always there, it just always existed. But now we have a situation where the outer component isn't always there. So this is our problem. Over here, probably actually the problem is before this. It's wherever we call create visualization from. And it may, yeah, right here is our problem. We probably should be like, does a visualization already exist for this or not? And then I don't know if that is a create viz for component. So yeah, so it's even before this because we don't want to create a visualization for the component. Here, set up visualization items. So right now we're saying, hey, for every one of them, just blindly create a new visualization component. But we don't want to if the visualization component for this one already exists. And basically, we just always assumed that there was no visualization component because how could it have existed when, see, it's just a weird situation. So basically, and I don't know exactly what to do on this. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to take this line of code here and we need to add some logic in to set up visualization items. Now, one of the problems for setup is that the way this is coded, it's not very friendly towards adding like if case statements and stuff like that in there. And the biggest reason we have it that way is because we wanted to make sure that I mean, we wanted to make it easy to unit test. So anyways, let's go ahead and find this line of code. I think the easiest way to find a line of code like this is just to search for it. There we go. And then this is really a good time to close others and then hit run. So our whatever we're going to change needs to start here. And okay, first of all, keep in mind that before we were sort of thinking on this 30,000 foot, kind of coming up with a story that kind of describes what's going on and all that, just to kind of make sense of things. And now we're like narrowed way down, and then way down at the create viz for component. And what we realized here is, and this is kind of the first step that I'll almost always take, is we'll say determine if a viz for this component already exists. And I think a couple of holes, right? Like a couple of architectural mistakes are starting to appear, because I don't think we're creating a visualization component. We're creating a visualization for component, not create viz component. Okay, so basically now, so my knee-jerk reaction normally would be like, okay, now let's just start adding code in here. But this architecture won't support that. I mean, this architecture will get really screwy if we do that. So like, I'm strongly guided in the direction of, okay, I need to add another layer. I need to call like a create or, create or update for viz component, or upsert viz for component. So I believe upsert means that you're going to update if there's a new one. I mean, if one already exists, or you're going to create insert if one doesn't exist. So we may be creating one, or we may be updating one. Now, all kinds of stuff. We have a lot of potential for all kinds of stuff to be screwed up in both directions, right? And by directions, I mean like everything before this, like we may need to add something so that you can determine if it already exists, if we're just if this is a recreate, or you may be, so we might have to add code, or we might be able to figure that out based on the existing information. Also, we may need to make some changes on the backside for calculating positions and stuff like that. Like I don't know how calculate position ends up getting called, but I'm pretty sure we don't want to like have a copy and paste of calculating positions and stuff. And then like this reset hash, I have a sense that I didn't do that quite right. I'm not sure, but I know that the idea was that we'd be able to tell if something had changed. And see, that is an example of where I added code looking down the future of, okay, in the future I'm going to need to be able to tell if something's been changed or not. And then since then I've been thinking, oh, you know what, I think I need to have another set of data that's only for editing, for the edit process, so that you don't have IDs and stuff, all that mixed in there. And now if that is the case, if that's the direction I'm going, this whole reset hash is just a big mess that we're going to have to unwind. So anyways, these are the kind of issues that you sort of run into. That's the kind of issue you run into when you sort of like try to predict how you're going to solve a future problem. Um, and then this is the kind of problem that you run into when you don't try to predict a future problem. So I didn't try to predict what happens if the visualization for the component already exists. So I didn't try to predict that. I did try to predict what happens if it changes in the future when I have an edit thing. I think this is much easier to figure out today than it would have been trying to predict in the future. I have a feeling this is going to be a huge pain in my butt to unwind. But I don't know. The hash, I think, was so that, yeah, I don't know. Now, the one thing, though, if we're updating a viz component, we won't be calculating positions. We'll just be using the stored positions. So anyways, so I think we want to add another layer that says, that's like upsert. I'm just going to call it upsert for now. Maybe we'll come up with a better name. Viz for component. And it's just going to take the viz component. So we won't change anything about that at the moment. And I think I like just returning a Boolean. Again, another one of those things for unit tests. And then for the moment, we'll just return true. And maybe we will, oh, why did I say void? And then, okay, so now I'm just going to say this and just make sure that nothing breaks. And I don't think we're going to need to bind it. And so my theory is that I can just replace create with upsert and that everything will just work. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't see why it wouldn't, but my belief is that I could do that and everything just keeps working. So, but I'm not 100% sure on that, and I really do want to be sure that I didn't just break anything. And this is like a new situation for me, right? Because like I have a tool available to me that I have never had before, and I don't know if it's worth using at this point in time. I do know it's worth just trying. I don't see, is it, I think we're good. But now let's close, come back, close, come back. Okay. So we have 3 visualizations components, and we have 3 visualization, and we have 9 visualization items, but we should only have 3 visualization items. So the upsert needs to figure out, are we creating or are we editing? Now, again, we're at another one of those little forks in the road, right? Where we're like, right now, there is no way, like either they all need to be edited or they all need to be created, right? There's no, sometimes they're created, sometimes they're edited. So, but in the future, you may be able to go into some other process, add one, and some of them have been created and some of them have been edited. And that is going to be a complete pain in the butt to figure out. That's going to be like, let's say this was on a scale of 1 to 10 to figure out this bug. Let's say this one was a 3. That one is probably going to be a 10. But I don't want to do like this hash thing. I don't want to try to future fix a future bug. I know the bug is coming. I don't know exactly how it's going to come, but at some point, like I can't even contrive of how this bug is going to happen, where the number of visualization items is different than the number of visualizations, um, but it was a different number last time. Like this last time there was five, and now there's six, or last time there was six, and now there's three. So, anyways, that is a future bug that's hard to even imagine, and I don't know exactly how we want to fix that, and I know it's going to be really hard to fix. Um, and that is a reality that you just have to live with, and it's kind of one of those bummer situations where like you're just not going to be able to explain that to anybody, um, in your to people in your organization that you're working for. It's going to be almost impossible to explain that, hey, yeah, no, we have a bug coming. Yeah, no, I can't fix it now. I mean, I could try to fix it now, but I can't be exactly sure how everything's going to be, and I'm likely to create some bizarre mess if I try to fix it now. But anyway, so console log. So here, this is now a function. This is now a comment for here. And then, and I don't like if it, there's a big risk right now of using implication, like, oh, well, this number doesn't match that number, so that implies this or something like that. I would like to avoid that if at all possible. Sometimes you just have to do that, but if at all possible, I would like to avoid that. Determine, and then console log. Now you might notice that I'm not interacting with ChatGPT right now. And that's because this is a very specific problem that's just specific to me. This is not some general, like, okay, how do you connect this to that? Or what are the patterns for this or that? This is just like, okay, I've done this and I need to figure out why it's not working. And that is a very different situation. But one thing I will say though is that I can kind of I have a little bit better understanding of how the future of coding looks, because basically, like, I can code in just about any language now because I know how to code. So I can go to ChatGPT, and as long as I can get rolling, I know what I want to do. I know ways of it being done, so I know how to ask the questions. So I guess the future of coding might end up being kind of like, so like before I was like in college, before I was even like early on, there was this language that was called Pascal, Pascal, and Pascal was like this language that no one ever used. It was only for learning. So you would learn how to code with Pascal, and then you would learn the language that you were going to make your living in or whatever. And this was before my time, so I don't really know exactly how that worked. We probably are headed to that sort of, okay, here's a basic language and a basic framework where you get in touch with every sort of concept. And so you learn how to ask all the questions, you understand what you want and all that. Okay, now we're going to code this in C#. And then you go to ChatGPT and find out exactly how. That is probably the way it's going to work in the future. But and then determine if this viz already exists. And then basically we're going to do a debug statement there. We're going to click that. And then you may be wondering like why you have to click off and all that. And it was because I don't want, normally the normal behavior is this pops up, then you click on this and then it shuts. But I want to be able to add like 10 of them at one time. I may not want that in the future, but for now, that's what I want. Now, if I decide I don't want that in the future, that's going to be a real pain in the butt for my end-to-end tests because I have them all coded for that. But um, and I guess with the end-to-end test, when we see what breaks, we will have like, oh, but we lose this by doing that, you know. But anyway, so 8:45, and we definitely, the other bug is we do not want this showing up here, but that probably won't be that big of a deal. But who knows? Okay, so at this point, we want to determine that. Um, let's see what's in this. I don't even know what we have access to in our scope. So we do have a visualization service, it looks like. We have an array of visualization IDs. Okay, so these are our visualizations, and as you see, our visualization, we have one visualization. Oh, and I've actually been very, very so this is our component, I believe. No. Is this our component, this visualization? It says it has been initialized. And let's go back to our sources. Viz component. Ah, okay, so that visualization still exists. See, we have a visualization right now called Viz component, and it says it hasn't been initialized. But then when we look in our console and we look at the visualization, it actually does have a Viz component. This was what I was wondering about the other day, and I was like, oh, so it executed that on destroy. So that's another piece of information to know, is when it exercises the on destroy, that does not mean it's been destroyed. Because this thing still has, like, this Viz ID doesn't even exist, so it's console log that. So we're going to do this console log, and this is really one of the big things I was hoping to understand. Was how all of these work. Okay, so now we're going to hit run. And now I think there'll be two in here. Yeah, so there was only one. See, now this is our second one. Now, if you look in here, there is a visualization component, but this visualization component doesn't exist. So like if I click on this guy here, well, visualization component, no, that's visualization service. Trying to find like the native element. Oh, element ref. See, there's that, right? Now if I come over here on this one, see, I'm mousing over the div, but the div doesn't exist. So this is so dangerous, right? Because this is using memory right now. It doesn't even exist. It does not exist on the DOM anywhere, and it's still using memory. So we need to go back. So remember I was saying there's like stuff on the one side that that's going to need to be done, and then there's stuff on the other side. Now we need to circle back, and we got to go to when the visualization component is destroyed, that it actually goes and cleans itself up in this visualization service. And I believe the visualization component has access to the visualization service, and we can actually see it. Yeah, so this component visualization service. So probably in the visualization service, which I think is where we're working, we probably need to add like a function that says, you know, remove self or destroy self or something like that, that gets called as part of the destroy hook that removes itself from here. So then there's nothing there. And then we could probably just check to see if if a visualization service has been populated, and if it hasn't been populated, then I think we can infer that, well, oh, this thing used to exist and it had something, but now it doesn't have anything, so it needs to this visualization component needs to be added to this visualization item. 851. All right, so basically tomorrow, in the visualization component, and then on destroy, and let's just do that. Let's just double check. If we look at our console, see there's a point where it destroyed itself, but it still exists. I was actually blown away because I was like, oh man, it destroys itself even though, I wonder what it is. And I was actually looking forward to looking to see what was in here, because I assumed it would be like a null or an undefined or something, but no, it still exists. So the on destroy does not mean that it was destroyed. Okay, we got to get that thing. We got to get that straight in our head. And that is actually a quite valuable piece of information. Destroying the viz component, remove self from visual viz items list. All right. And then inside of visualization service, and keep in mind, this is a singleton, which is very unusual for JavaScript. But many, many times when you're working with something like that, this is not, oh man, this is not what I was hoping. See, it's this one that, okay, how does that work? Vid service. Okay, so in here, oh, he doesn't even have a reference to vid service. Component visualization service. Oh, okay, this is the little local one. Okay. And I don't have, I thought I had access to the visualization service. I do not. I do not have access, and I don't know if I can, if it'll compile and work. So the next thing to do is to see if we can actually import the visualization service and not have some kind of weird compilation bug, transpilation bug, service, and then we're going to inject. I feel like these should go first. equals inject. And what I want to be able to do is like just remove myself from remove this when it gets destroyed, remove its reference. And then it should be gone. I don't think there'll be any other references to it, but I'm curious if this ends up causing a problem. Sometimes when you try to transpile things, I have one instance in here where it just does not seem to want to work. Okay, so it seems to be fine. Okay. Okay, so creating viz component and g after. So basically inside of our visualization, this stop visualization. Remove component. And then I don't probably, oh, it looks like we have the ST renderer ID. I'm guessing that's what we want to do. And so basically it won't, now that won't solve all our problems here, because then the next thing will be like, okay, is there a unused one that needs to be created? And I don't know. And once all that's working, then we need to take another good look at things. But anyways, so it is 8:56, so I got to go. It's Tuesday. Have a happy Tuesday, everybody. Bye.